Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blind Judgment Podcast. I'm Allie.
And I am J to the low.
And we are so glad that you are here and that you are listening to us.
We got a big episode for y'all today. Is that right?
That is true. We have a very big episode, a big case. So we're going to keep the intro kind of short. And I think we're kind of just going to get right into it. So this week, we are covering probably one of the biggest unsolved true crime cases of all time.
Well, we mentioned in our last episode, right?
Yes, we will be discussing the murder of 6-year-old pageant queen JonBenét Ramsey. Yes.
This is what spawned this episode, or this entire podcast.
That is very true. So we, technically the first episode of the Blind Judgment Podcast was the JonBenét case. This is a super high profile, media frenzy, big case. There are a lot of theories with this one, lots of speculation. It's probably like my favorite rabbit hole to fall down.
Because it generates kind of a lot of theories.
It does, yes, because there is a lot of ambiguity. Because again, it's an unsolved crime. There's a lot of ambiguity with, who could have truly done something like this. And the parents are heavily implicated, or a family member is heavily implicated. So it's
and I think you just like that you have a saucy theory yourself. Is that true?
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get into that.
We will get into it, but I do have my theory on it. It's probably one of the more popular theories.
I thought yours was one of the most unpopular theories. But we'll get into it.
I guess we'll
Maybe
get
I
into
forgot
it.
a little bit what your theory.
Sure. Yeah. So, and what's great is that I think this is one of the first cases that we're going to cover that you actually know about. Like, you actually know quite a bit about this case because we have covered it previously.
That's the only reason I know about it. But, let's rewind the tapes to when we recorded that first episode. I was blind as a bat, as they say. But yeah, you opened my eyes. It was a dope case. And I'm excited to kind of revisit it.
Me too. Like I said, this is one of my favorite cases to discuss and to research and to look into. I think probably someone had asked us recently, like, what got me into true crime? And I feel like it probably was this case. Just because I was a young girl whenever a lot of information about this case came out. It happened in 1996, but a lot of more info, things that we will get into later, kind of happened in like 1999, 2000. So I just remember hearing about it or being at the grocery store with my mom, and you would see her picture, that like super famous photo of hers where she's done up with her pageant hair. It's her in like her pageant garb.
Mm-hmm.
Like a headshot. That was like on every single tabloid magazine for a super long time.
Yeah. Did you do new research for this episode, or did you kind of...
I reworked the episode, so it is going to be a little bit different. Just a little new snippet has come out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's not. We'll get into it, babe. Nothing groundbreaking.
But it's crazy that things are still happening
right now. So last November, the Colorado Cold Case Division, they took this case on. It's almost 30 years old, but now they're going to be looking over it because it is a cold case.
They're trying to just make a name for themselves. Is that what's going on? Like maybe there's a new sheriff in town, and he's like, Listen up, buckos.
Pretty much. I feel like every time they get like a new DA or they get a new sheriff or they get a new somebody, because this case is such a media sensation,
Yeah.
it gets so much draw, so much pull. I think they always promise like, and we're going to solve the JonBenét case.
Well, imagine like if you were in Colorado and you were like, grew up,
in Boulder,
and you grew up knowing this case, and then you grow up to be a sheriff. It's probably like a dream, like a little kid who wants to play in the NBA has a dream of playing in the NBA finals. Well, there's some kid out there who dreams of being a sheriff and solving the JonBenét case. I bet you that's what it's like.
That is true. That's probably what it's like, for real. Yeah.
So they just took it on in November, and
November of last year. They took it on. They're actively working on the case right now. So
interesting.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Ain't shit gonna happen.
Well, we will let's just get into the case. Oh wait, so before we do, let's just remind our listeners to like and subscribe to our podcast if you like what you're hearing. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mailman. We appreciate your support. Okay, so I'm going to give you some backstory into the entire Ramsey family, just to provide you with a little bit of context, since they are obviously some of the most important characters within the story. So, JonBenét Ramsey was JonBenét's father. He was a multi-millionaire businessman who was the president of a company called Access Graphics, which was a computer software firm. It eventually became a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin.
Oh, okay. Snap.
And JonBenét's mother is Patsy Ramsey. She is a former beauty queen. She was actually crowned Miss West Virginia in 1977.
Slay.
Yes. So she's a pageant girly. And okay, so John had 3 kids from a previous marriage. He had Melinda, John Andrew, and Elizabeth. But John and Patsy have 2 children together. They have a son, Burke, who was born in 1987, and a daughter, JonBenét, who was born in 1990.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Now, as I said previously, the Ramseys have a lot of money. They are very, very wealthy. They have a private plane. They have numerous homes. Yeah, they're very rich. They have a house in Michigan where John is from. They have an estate in Atlanta. And then they have what they refer to as their holiday home in Boulder, Colorado. And it's not just like a chalet or whatever. It is like a 3-story, multi-million-dollar mansion.
Damn.
It's very big. And it's kind of set up like, and this will be important later in the story, but it's very confusing. Like I watched on YouTube, I watched like a tour of the home, and the layout is very, very strange. It was definitely like built one way in the beginning, and then it had like several additions built onto it.
Oh, I see.
So it's very maze-like the way it's set up. So in 1991, the family relocates to that home in Boulder, Colorado, which just so happens to be where that company, Access Graphics, is headquartered. So let's fast forward to the year 1996. Okay.
So JonBenét is six years old?
Yes. JonBenét is 6, and her brother Burke is 9. So the Ramseys are thriving. John has just been named Entrepreneur of the Year by Boulder Chamber of Commerce, and little JonBenét is following in her mother's footsteps and has been competing in beauty pageants. She actually wins 5 of the 7 pageants that she was enrolled in. So this girl is
She's
on
up
a
and
roll.
coming.
She really is.
Okay.
She is that pageant girl. So yeah, the year 1996 is shaping up to be a pretty good year for the Ramseys. And they are ready to close it out with their favorite holiday, Christmas. They love Christmas. They go all out every year with decorations. Bless you.
Sorry.
With decorations, events, gatherings, the whole 9. So before we go any further, what is your vibe of the Ramsey family? Like, what do you think about them?
They're like balling out of control. They got a private jet. They got houses all over the country. I mean, they just seem like, I don't even know. I can't,
They seem very idyllic. Like the
Yeah,
dad
exactly.
is this like
The American dream family.
successful entrepreneur. And in the 90s, he had a software company.
Head of his time.
Which is, yeah, like totally ahead of his time. The mom, she was a pageant girl, very pretty. They've got JonBenét in pageants now.
Well, yeah,
So
what
they
about
are.
Burke? Like, how's he doing?
Burke is just.
Is he kind of
Burke.
like the forgotten one of the family? Like everybody's like killing it. Oop. Well, that's a foreshadowing.
If you don't say that. Burke is just Burke. All right.
Interesting
So-
dynamic.
Yeah.
No, they sound good, but maybe a little too good. Like,
yeah, maybe
what's
something else is going on behind the curtains there.
Yeah, because as they say, more money, more problems. You know what I'm saying? When you're at the top, more people trying to come at you.
Oh, that is very true.
So, like, what are
They
they?
could try to come after you.
What
try
are
to
they
get some coin.
hiding? What is kind of in the undercurrent? That's where my head's at.
Okay. Well, we'll see where that takes
Because life
you.
can't be that good. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So it's Christmas Day.
96?
Christmas Day of 1996. The Ramseys spent their day opening gifts. JonBenét actually gets a bike. Then later, they head over to their family friends, the Whites, their house for a Christmas party. And while they're there, JonBenét is seen dancing, singing. She is enjoying her time. And people who are there that see her, they say she looks like a little angel.
Aw.
So they arrive back home around 9 p.m.
Also, that's kind of foreshadowing.
You're gnarly. So they get back home around 9 p.m. and clearly exhausted from the day's events, JonBenét and Burke have fallen asleep in the car. Now at the party, JonBenét had already changed into her gray and white pajamas. So when they get home, her dad just carries her upstairs and tucks her into bed.
Dang, I feel like that's a parent hack. I'm going to write that one down.
Did you do that at family? I feel like I did that. Like at
maybe this
family
is like-
gatherings, like you just change into your pajamas because you're probably going to fall asleep.
Oh, no, I never did that. Maybe it's more well known than I am giving it credit for. Maybe this is just something that parents know to do. Like they just take the PJs.
Yeah. And then like, okay, well, just change into your pajamas because you're probably going to be, especially if you're going to be like at a gathering or something
Yeah.
late into the night. Did you just fall asleep in your regular clothes?
Yeah, for sure.
Huh.
I had no problem falling asleep, especially as soon as I got in the car. I was notorious for falling asleep in the car.
You still do that even when you're driving.
100%. I cannot. That's why I don't like driving long distances. Once I hit an hour, I'm like, I'm ready to take a nap.
You're always ready for a nap.
Yeah, that's why I don't really complain about Austin traffic because it's like, cool, bumper to bumper. I can just take a nap.
That is alarming.
No, I used to legit, I used to work in San Antonio and work in Austin, so I'd have to make that commute.
Yeah.
I would always, on the way home, have to pull into a parking lot, what I used to do is take like a 15-minute power nap. And that was enough.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I would get in the parking lot. I'd have my spot. I would do it at the what is that? It's like a store for hunting. They have the huge water tower in Buda. Cabela's.
Cabela's. You'd pull over in the Cabela's in Buda.
Yeah,
and
because
you would just take a nap.
their parking lot is massive. And so I'd just go to the back of their parking lot, go under a tree, crank up my AC, fall asleep for about 15, 20 minutes, wake up, head on home.
That's insane. You're such a napper. I feel like I cannot nap.
Yeah,
for
but you
whatever
don't
reasons.
understand. Like, I was dying of sleepiness at that point. Like, in my commute, I was just so tired. Because even at that point, I was like already driving for like 30, 40 minutes. I used to work in North Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my God, I couldn't wait to pull in that parking lot and just close my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents did me a disservice because I was one of those kids that used to get driven around in order to be like put down for a nap.
Oh, really? They just put you in the car.
They would drive me around.
So
and that's how, so in my head, I'm just like car equals nap.
Sleepy boy. All right. So it's the day after Christmas. They have had fun, did their festivities the day before on Christmas Day. They had a late night the night before. The next morning, Patsy gets up around 5:30 a.m. and she comes down the staircase that attaches to the kitchen. There are 2 staircases in the house. So she comes down the staircase. And as she descends, she discovers a 3-page handwritten note spread out on the step below.
Oh, yeah. This gets immediately good.
Now I'm going to read the note, and it is long, so stick with me. Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate-sized attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup time of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The 2 gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you to not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned that we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You're not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. Victory. Signed SBTC.
Victory?
Victory.
Dude, it's like a movie.
Yes, it is very cinematic. The words that are used, how it is written, it is very much like a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anything else really like jump out at you?
Well,
What do you
it's
think?
definitely seems like an inside job type thing where they mentioned watching him, monitoring him, they know him, and they are not holding back about letting him know that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And then I like how they were like, try to get some rest, as if you could possibly rest, one, with your daughter having been kidnapped, and then two, having a ransom note placed in your home, like
in your house.
So I'd imagine that they're just losing their minds.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they must, like their world must be upside down. That ransom note just completely rocks my brain. You know, it's like,
it's so crazy.
One thing to be missing your child, but now to be thinking like, we've been watched. Who is this? These people know me. These two of them don't like me. Like, what is going on? Like, there is just so much for them to digest.
They know so much like about his business.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just very interesting.
It's very creepy. And it's so long. Like for a ransom note, it's 2.5 pages long. Like there is a lot to it.
And I wonder what the Benét's immediate reaction to it was.
The
like,
Ramseys.
Oh, the Ramseys. Like, was it to believe it? Like,
yeah. What is your immediate reaction? Well, I mean, we can get back into it. I mean, she reads it. Patsy reads this letter. She immediately runs back upstairs into her daughter's room, and she's missing.
Damn.
Not in her bed.
Okay.
So that has got to be absolutely terrifying. Like to have that sinking feeling that you find this creepy letter and your daughter is in fact missing.
And I'm sure they have some kind of extensive alarm or security system in their home.
Yeah.
And then for her to just vanish like that. Huh.
It's scary. Oh yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So once she discovers that JonBenét is missing, it's about 5:52 a.m. now, and Patsy dials 911. Now, I could go into detail about the call, but I feel because there is so much speculation surrounding the Ramseys and their involvement, I just want to play that 911 recording for you, just so maybe you can get a feel for it yourself.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was this? I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's gone. Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please. Okay, well, there's somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath, please. Okay? Hurry. Patsy.
right, so that's the call.
Interesting.
What's your immediate reaction to that?
I don't blame them for calling the authorities, right? Because it's it's a situation you only ever see in the movies. I'm sure you're just looking for somebody to take the lead in a situation like this. And you're going to rely on the authorities to do that,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I guess I'm curious, like, how hard that decision was. For like, do we call the cops or not? Or, if it was just like, yeah, what do we do? Or if it was like, that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
It's so crazy. I think that there are a lot of really odd things when I listen to the recording. I always thought it was weird how when she dials 911, she's one of the first things that she says to the operator is she says, "My daughter is missing. She's blonde." Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, I've always thought that is such an odd, like, random detail, especially now, like looking back, like in hindsight, because her pageant photos were plastered everywhere after after her murder. Like, it's just very, it's kind of strange, don't you think?
What do you make of it?
There's just always been such an emphasis, like, on JonBenét's appearance. And she's a victim.
Yeah. So what are you trying to say, like, about the mom?
Like, why did she have to include that? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you think it makes her look a certain way?
I just think it's strange.
Yeah. Right.
I guess if it were me, like if I were calling 911 and my daughter was missing and there's a ransom note, I'm not going to immediately think to talk about like her
start describing her.
Yeah.
But to counter that, I hate to keep bringing this back to movies, but that's usually what happens. Like the 911 operator's like, okay, well, what does the person look like? What were they wearing? And there's always like a description, of, I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm not the only person who thought that there was something off about the phone call. All right. So the dispatcher also thought that it was strange, and they have actually come forward in recent years. And she claims that she always felt that something was off. And she felt that Patsy Ramsey seemed very rehearsed. So at the end of the call, and I know you didn't really hear it very well, but there's this moment where the dispatcher is saying like, Patsy, and Patsy Ramsey went to hang up the phone on the receiver, but I guess it didn't like click all the way. So she was still like on the line.
Yeah.
And the dispatcher says that she could hear at least one other, if not two other voices in the room. And you can find this video on YouTube. We don't have to include it because it is pure speculation, but some people have enhanced the audio. And again, speculation. It sounds like one of the other voices is saying either, "What have you done?" or "What do they know?"
Huh. I guess to my point earlier about like, what do you do? Call the cops or not call the cops? The fact that they called seems like maybe they knew nothing bad would happen. If say they maybe did it themselves and like the ransom note was like there is nobody behind the ransom note and instead it was them.
That is that's what people think.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people think. So 2 officers respond to the 911 call. They get to the Ramsey house in about 3 minutes. They do a quick search of the home, but they find no signs of forced entry. They check out the exterior, like near the basement, and they find a door that is secured with a wooden latch at the top. So they look at the door, they stand there for a minute, but then they just kind of walk away without opening it. They were just kind of looking for maybe an exit where the kidnapper could have left the home with JonBenét. But because the latch was from the outside, the kidnapper couldn't have used it to exit. So that was ruled out there.
What's the weather like at this time? I would imagine maybe snowy. Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of snow on the ground. And they don't find any real footprints.
Okay.
No. So while the cops are checking the perimeter, Patsy reaches out to family and friends who immediately come over. So there is now a large group of people who arrive at the Ramseys' home. They make breakfast, they clean up the house a little bit, and they are comforting the family. Because JonBenét is still missing, John starts making arrangements to pay the ransom, and a forensics team is sent to the home. Now, they initially thought that she had just been kidnapped, so only JonBenét's room was sealed off to protect evidence. No other measures were taken to protect evidence in the rest of the house.
Huh.
So all of these people, their friends, like a lot of people from their church group came over. They're all
in the crime
over
scene.
the house. They're in the crime scene, right? So at around 8 a.m., Detective Linda Arndt arrives. And her job, she's essentially there to be on standby for correspondence with the kidnappers. Like that's going to be her job. That's the role she's taking on. But no one ever calls.
So where are we at? What time are we talking about?
So it's still
the same day.
It's the same day. We're heading into the afternoon.
Okay, so still pretty early.
It's still pretty early.
But cops have been there for couple hours.
They've been there for a couple of hours, and Detective Arndt is there waiting around.
So if they were being monitored, it's likely that the people behind the ransom note already is tipped off to the fact that they did indeed call authorities.
Yes, they would be aware. If they were being watched, then the kidnappers would definitely be aware that they had called the police.
Okay.
Because there are several cops there.
Okay.
So now 1 p.m. rolls around. And everyone is still just waiting. It's Detective Arndt, it's the Ramseys, the friends and family. Everyone is just on pins and needles waiting to hear anything.
And the ransom note said they'd call between 8 and 12?
8 and 10 a.m.
And that call never came?
Call never came.
Okay, so that's what they're waiting for.
Yeah, they're waiting for the call. So they are waiting for her. And finally, Detective Arndt, she says to John Ramsey, she's like, hey, has anyone checked the interior of your house? Like, have you gone through your home? Because again, it's a very big home.
Yeah.
Lots of rooms.
Right.
She's like, has anyone gone through all of the rooms just to check around, And they're like, no, but let's go check it. So John and a family friend, Mr. White, who is he was the guy, they went over to their house the night prior. So they go and they're going to walk around, and they kick off their search in the basement. Now, the basement is kind of like, it's almost like a storage unit. Like it just has a bunch of crap down there.
Okay.
Like piled to the ceiling, all kinds of stuff.
All
Furniture, boxes of decorations. It's pretty
cluttered.
Kind of cluttered, kind of messy. But they head down there and they're checking there. So John opens the door to one of the rooms that's in the basement.
Okay.
He opens the door, and laying there in the middle of the floor is the lifeless body of his 6-year-old daughter, JonBenét Ramsey.
Whoa. I mean, I know this, but it just still hits.
She's been in the house the entire time. JonBenét's mouth was taped shut, and a nylon cord was wrapped around her wrists and neck. She was still wearing her pajamas from the night before. So John immediately starts yelling. He's hollering. He rips the duct tape off of her mouth, and he picks her up. He picks up her body, and he carries her upstairs. He lays her on the floor, and they cover her with a blanket that had been sitting on the couch.
What?
Yeah, when he does this, he contaminates the crime scene, destroying crucial forensic evidence that honestly is one of the biggest reasons why this case was never solved. They couldn't use any DNA evidence.
And he's just doing this with a bunch of authorities in his house.
At this point, it's just the detective.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I feel like the police behavior is a little weird. I mean, obviously, I've never been in a situation like this, but they're high-profile people or a high-profile family.
Yes.
A very unique and strange case just happened, and you just came, secured one room, left, let a detective. Like, that just seems weird. Like, I feel like
it is weird, but I guess to play like devil's advocate for them, this is in a very affluent area of Boulder. Like we say it's Boulder, but it's like a small village outside of Boulder. So the police that are working this case have never seen anything like this. It's a relatively quiet, calm, like not a whole lot happens in this like wealthy town. So they don't really honestly know what to do. And it's also the day after Christmas. So
do you know if there were media outside of the home at this point?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, he threw the blanket on her.
Yes. So they cover her. She's covered with the blanket. They contaminate the scene. And as she's laying on the ground, Detective Arndt calls for backup. And while they're waiting, everyone is in a circle, praying over her, crying, holding her.
What the heck?
And the detective says that in that moment, she was sure that the person responsible for the child's death was in the house.
Whoa.
And she reached down to her gun on her hip and counted how many bullets were in the barrel.
Was she planning to take everybody out?
Well, if it escalated, she was ready to...
Jeez.
She didn't know what was going to happen.
I wonder what made her think that.
I think it was her interpretation of the reaction of the Ramseys. Like, she just thought it was the way that they were behaving, they were very stoic. There was this one interview I watched with her. And also this detective, she reminds me a lot of Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like really serious, really like to the point and like smart and all that. But I watched one of the interviews and they asked her like, what were the Ramseys like when you showed up that day? And she said Patsy was very emotional and John was very cordial.
Huh.
And they were like cordial, like stoic. And she goes, cordial.
Huh. Weird.
Very, very weird. So each of the Ramseys, John, Patsy, and Burke, they give blood, hair samples, and handwriting samples to the police. John and Patsy took part in a preliminary interview that lasted about 2 hours. And then after that, they lawyer up and become uncooperative with the police. Now, this is absolutely crazy. This is something that whenever I was researching the case again, I saw this. So not even an hour after JonBenét's body was found, John was contacting a pilot for their private plane to fly the family to Atlanta.
To like one of their other houses?
Yeah, to their home in Atlanta.
Huh.
Like, that is weird.
Yeah, like, why would you want to leave?
Just immediately bounce.
Yeah, or run away, more like it.
And that marks the beginning of some pretty strange behavior from the Ramseys. All right, now we're going to head into the investigation and then the aftermath. But first, I want to ask you, what would you do if this were your child? Like, what would your reaction be?
After finding my child?
Just after this, imagine you are the Ramseys.
It's hard to say because in my head, I'm like, they're guilty.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that way when we first recorded this. Like, I feel like the way you told it this time kind of painted what happened in a different light, I guess, or maybe I'm just more attentive this time around.
I think because now you have all of the information.
Maybe.
And because of everything that's happened in the subsequent years.
So that kind of taints my answer a little bit. But if I were to put myself in their shoes again, I think it'd be, I don't know. Like, I want to say, like, I would believe the ransom note.
Yeah.
But I would be so freaked out and so out of my depths and out of my elements that I would want to reach out to a professional, which is a detective, a policeman, and just ask for help. Like, what do I do in this situation? And so I feel like in that situation, as hard as it might be, I would want to call the authorities, but it's hard to know because, like, would I believe that ransom note?
Yeah. It's hard to trust these people. Like, what? Yeah, exactly. Like, what would you even do? And I think that's important why I asked you is because it is so easy to judge the Ramseys. It's so easy to be hypercritical of their reaction and how they were and just all of this. But ultimately, like, imagine you are in their shoes. Like, how would you be?
Yeah, I know, but it's hard. It's not that hard if you ask that question, like, how would you be in that situation if you're 100% innocent versus how would you be in that situation if you're 100% guilty?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know. It'd be very, but yeah, who knows?
It's just all so weird. Yeah. All right. So we're going to discuss the autopsy.
Okay.
And trigger warning, we're going to be talking about some really dark stuff. This is a little girl. So even for our listeners, please take care of yourself as we listen to this. But the autopsy shows that JonBenét had been strangled. So the official cause of death was labeled as asphyxia by strangulation linked to craniocerebral trauma. It is believed that she received blunt force trauma to her head and was then strangled using a garrote. Do you know what a garrote is?
No.
So I didn't know either until I had started researching this case. So it is apparently like an old school, if you can even call it that, device used to strangle a person.
What?
And you make it using a cord or a rope and then like a stick of sorts.
Okay.
So you put the rope around the person's neck and then you tie it to the stick.
And then you spin the stick.
And then you twist it.
Yeah. And it tightens it.
Yes, and then would give you leverage as you're strangling them.
Gotcha.
Apparently, also, what I had been reading, at times they would use the stick to poke into the person's like spinal base on their head as another way to kill them. Not used in this situation, but that is what a garrote is.
Jeez, do you have to do that for a little child?
Exactly. It is very, very extreme.
Very over the top.
Very over the top. So it was made from a piece of nylon cord and a broken paintbrush handle. A piece of the bristle end of that paintbrush was located in a tub with Patsy's art supplies. But the bottom third has never been discovered, even though they have searched all over for it.
Huh.
So, okay. There was no sign of typical rape, but they could not completely rule out sexual assault. There were indications of vaginal injury, but no semen was ever found. And further findings would suggest that the paintbrush used in the garrote was also involved in the sexual assault. During the autopsy, the pathologist noted that it looked like her vaginal area had been cleaned with a cloth. The autopsy also found some vegetable or fruit material that might have been pineapple, which JonBenét had consumed a few hours prior to her death.
Where did they find that?
In her stomach.
Oh.
So she had the last thing that she had eaten in a short period before her death was vegetable or fruit matter that might be pineapple.
Okay.
And keep that in mind. We will discuss that later.
Okay.
Okay, so let's get into the aftermath and the investigation. We're already an hour into this. So let's keep going. So this case is starting to gain some national attention. And on January 1st of 1997, the Ramseys make their first television appearance on CNN. They are pleading with the public and offer a reward for information on the murder of their daughter. And now Patsy Ramsey, she is visibly like, she is on something. Like she is zooted out of her mind.
She's under the influence.
She is definitely under the influence. She's taken something, which, and to be fair, if this had happened to me, you'd have to give me a sedative of some sort.
Yeah.
Like I don't fault her for that. But this is a case that has been tried in the court of public opinion, and people really took this and they freaking ran with it. Off the rip, they thought that the Ramseys were guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah, immediately. They thought they either did it or they had something to do with it. Specifically, Patsy. They had this whole narrative that, she's this overbearing stage mom, she's on drugs, she's unstable, all of this, okay? And to be fair, the Ramseys are not doing themselves any favors, okay? Because they do not cooperate with the Boulder police at all throughout this investigation. And they don't sit down for a formal interview with them until April of 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, like how concerned can they actually be about getting to the bottom of this?
Exactly.
If they're not cooperating with the one team
that is working tirelessly to figure out what happened to their daughter.
Yeah.
Limited correspondence. The only real correspondence is through their lawyers, and they each have their own lawyer. They're not represented by one. John has a lawyer. Patsy has a lawyer. It is strange. And they also, because this case was all over the media at the time and also years later, they hire a PR team before they go on to CNN. So they had a PR team who was representing them.
Like if I commit a crime and I'm a suspect, maybe I'm the prime suspect, how can I just be like, sorry, I can't talk to y'all about this case, talk to my lawyer? Like at some point, maybe I can do that in the beginning, but at some point, like, can't the authorities be like, we have a warrant to bring you in for questioning at least or something like that? Isn't there?
If they have like actual evidence.
But I guess so right now they have nothing.
They don't really
to be
have
able to,
anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because they can't do anything with the DNA evidence.
Yeah.
So there's nothing there. They don't have a whole lot to go off of. So.
But even like suspicion, you would think.
Yeah, but
Okay.
They certainly don't. Now, even though the Ramseys are not super cooperative, the detectives are continuing with their investigation, and they're focusing on one of the most crucial pieces of evidence: the letter. This is, to me, the most intriguing part of the case. It's so fascinating to me. Now, again, the letter is 2.5 pages long, one of the longest ransom notes in current crime history. It is discovered to have been written with a pen and notepad found inside the house.
Oh my God.
Yes. So whoever wrote this ransom note wrote it last minute and used items that were found within the house.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Like, go find a marker in my house right now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know where to start looking.
But it's just a pen and a pad.
Yeah.
There it is. In the kitchen. It was found in the kitchen. So it's just odd.
Yeah.
Odd. Very, very strange. But there are a lot of really weird things with this letter. So let's get into it. Weird length. We already talked about it. You think typically if there's a ransom, it doesn't go into all of the detail. It never once mentions JonBenét's name. Like it's just like, oh, we've got your daughter, da-da-da-da-da, which I mean, I guess that isn't that strange.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the longer you make it, the more you give authorities, the more at risk you put yourself for being found out.
Yes, exactly. So the language that was used in the letter is also very strange. Some analysts claim that it was written in maternal language. Okay, like make sure you get some rest, like we talked about that. Bring an appropriate attaché. That is what some people who have gone over the letter have noted on.
Maybe ChatGPT wrote it. ChatGPT, write me a ransom note to prove that I did not murder my daughter. Please and thank you.
Yeah. So not only that, some of the lines that are used are almost like a movie. The line, use your brain, is actually a line from the movie Speed, which had just come out at this time. And then lastly, one of the strangest things about the letter is the amount of money that is requested from the Ramseys. It's a very odd amount.
Very
it's
specific.
$118,000.
Okay, yeah.
Very specific.
Doesn't seem like that much.
$118,000 was the exact amount of money that John Ramsey had received in his Christmas bonus. Yes. So, someone close to the Ramseys or the Ramseys
Yeah.
themselves would have to write this because they would have to know that that would be an amount of money that the Ramseys would have. I mean, not just like lying around, but they'd have very easy access to.
I feel like they were desperate to blackmail somebody that they knew. I feel like they knew they wanted to throw the shade or draw the authorities' attention to somebody in their
else.
circle
Yeah.
that they knew would just fit the bill for like they're the ones who did this. And like they seem like they went above and beyond to make it look like it was somebody really close to them.
Exactly. Or somebody, or even someone who like worked with John Ramsey.
Right. Like,
that's is it
I mean.
someone in like the finance department?
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like he maybe like it's almost like he's trying to get rid of somebody.
Yeah.
In his company or like around his company or something. But anyways.
They're trying to divert for sure. Oh, and then there's the matter of the handwriting. So both John and Patsy submit their handwriting samples, and John was cleared of any similarities, but Patsy was not. The way she wrote her A's, J's, and G's was very similar to those that were in the letter.
How do you not just change how you write knowing that you're being scrutinized?
Yeah.
For potentially killing your daughter.
Exactly. So that is why no real conclusions could be made.
Yeah. Lame. Like, wouldn't you just find historical letters that they've written and analyze it that way?
I guess they should have. I don't know.
Damn, make me sheriff, bro. I will solve the JonBenét case.
They should hire you. Come on.
Damn.
You could crack this.
Well, if you're listening to this and you're working on the case and they're stuck again, holler at your boy.
Well, nothing would be able to come of it because unfortunately Patsy Ramsey has passed away.
Well, again, I don't care. We're going to find things that she wrote when she was alive.
Okay. All right. We'll do that for sure. Now, just like you said, there's a lot of speculation with this case. The police are pretty sure that the Ramseys had something to do with this, right? So a grand jury starts meeting on September 15th of 1998 to look into possibly indicting the Ramseys for charges related to the case.
Okay.
However, in October of 99, the grand jury decided to charge the Ramseys with putting their daughter in danger in a way that contributed to her death based on the probable cause that they use in standard grand jury cases. However, the Boulder County District Attorney chose not to prosecute them because he couldn't meet the higher standard of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt that you need for a criminal conviction. So they were not charged. Now, in the year 2000, that's a big year for this case. The Ramseys release a book. It's called The Death of Innocence. It's about the murder of their daughter and the subsequent events. A lot of people associated with this case have written books. So the Ramseys did. Detective Lou Smith, who was one of the leading detectives on the case once it was declared a homicide, he wrote one. A lot of people have written books, but Ramseys wrote one in the year 2000. They continue to make media appearances talking about this case and how it was handled. They are all over the news. And this goes on for years and years and years. There are so many interviews that I could provide as an example. But one of my favorites that they do, they're on the Larry King Show. The Ramseys are on with one of the detectives who was on the case who believed that they had done it. And the interview goes absolutely off the rails. Like they are fighting, like all out
Nice.
fighting, hollering at each other. And Larry King is just watching like, this is great
Yeah,
television.
exactly.
I'm knocking it out of the park right now. It's like Jerry Springer. So at one point, Patsy Ramsey says to the detective, she's like, look me in my face and tell me you think that I killed my daughter. And the detective's just like, I'll tell you right now, I think you're good for it.
Dang.
Like, he's just like, oh, yeah. So that interview, it goes on. And then towards the end, Larry King is like, would you two go into the Boulder Police Department, tomorrow and give an interview because you're innocent? And they're like, absolutely. Yes, we would. And then the detective is like, it'll be a cold day in hell before the Ramseys come in for an interview.
Damn. And I'm
They don't
sure they
make
didn't.
themselves. Yeah, no, they never do. So yeah, in the years after, there have been a wide array of movies, documentaries, TV shows, tabloid coverage, books about this case.
Books.
It's almost 30 years since this happened, and it has still held the public attention. There have been over 1,700 persons of interest associated with this case.
What?
Yeah. It is technically a cold case, but like we said, in November of 2024, the Colorado Cold Case Review Team has been assigned to it, and they're actively reviewing it.
Got my fingers crossed.
Got our fingers crossed. Now, like I said, unfortunately, in the year 2006, Patsy Ramsey did pass away from ovarian cancer. So she is no longer alive, but John Ramsey is still alive. He actually went on, after Patsy had passed away, he actually dated Beth Holloway, who is the mother of Natalie Holloway, whose case we covered in the other. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yes. They dated for a while. Yeah.
What in the world?
Isn't that a crazy connection, a crazy correlation?
That's wild.
So, yeah. So anyways, let's see if anything comes from the new investigation. But in the meantime, all we have are the theories. I'm going to list off some of the most popular theories. We're going to dive into them now.
Okay.
Okay. At the end, I want you to tell me which you think is the most probable. Okay. Let me get a sip of water. All right. So we'll start off. One of the theories is that her mother killed her, that it was Patsy Ramsey. All right. And this theory is that Patsy hit JonBenét in a moment of anger following a bedwetting incident. So JonBenét had a history of wetting the bed. And Patsy, who was overwhelmed with the holidays and allegedly overwhelmed with her upcoming 40th birthday, that she snapped and hit her on the head, knocking her unconscious, and that she then strangled her to hide what had occurred.
Huh. Okay.
And then she fabricated the whole thing. She wrote the note.
Right.
However, Patsy did not have a known pattern of losing her temper. And JonBenét's brother, Burke, has said that they were never spanked. They were never really disciplined as children.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't think that that would have ever been something to occur.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking to ask. So, okay.
She didn't have a history of anything like that. The next is her father. Okay. So there was some speculation, additionally within the family as well, but we won't fully get into that, that John Ramsey was sexually abusing JonBenét. And her murder was an outcome of an assault gone wrong. So JonBenét, like I said, she had a history of frequent bedwetting, which is often seen with children who are experiencing sexual abuse.
Okay.
However, and this wasn't fully investigated, there's never been any like real evidence that he had been sexually abusing her.
Okay.
So there's that theory. Then there is the theory of her brother. So Burke was 9 years old when JonBenét had passed away. He was questioned by the investigators at least 3 times after her murder. So the theory with him is that the kids woke up in the middle of the night. They go downstairs to get a snack. Burke grabs a bowl of his favorite snack, which is pineapple, and JonBenét tries to take it from him. He flips out. He hits her on the head with a flashlight, which is sitting nearby. She's knocked unconscious. He runs upstairs to get his parents, and then they try to cover it up by strangling her and fabricating the ransom note.
All these theories just require such a stretch.
Well, there is some evidence for this one. 1, there was pineapple found in her stomach. And 2, when the investigators walked through the house, the initial police, when they walked through the house and they took photos, there is a bowl of pineapple sitting on the kitchen counter with a spoon in it. And next to it is like a big black flashlight. But no one, like neither John nor Patsy, they don't recall placing the bowl there or giving any pineapple to her. It's just kind of like, well.
Did they, I mean, this is a super specific question, but like, do we know if they were serving pineapple at the party where the night before she went missing? So like, could that pineapple in her stomach have been eaten at the party?
Maybe. I don't know. We got to get you on the case.
And like, it would also be weird if Burke runs up to tell his parents what just happened. Hey, I was just eating pineapple. She took my stuff, so I hit her. Because as a child, you defend, like you would justify your action. She was trying to steal my pineapple.
Yeah.
And so I would think if they had that information, they would get rid of the bowl of pineapple sitting on the counter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I could certainly see that, but I feel like in that moment, if the goal is to cover this up, like to cover up this murder, like what happened, they're probably just thinking so frantically that they probably like didn't even.
And also, why wouldn't you call the ambulance?
I think, and this is like, I mean, obviously, this is the theory that I feel is the most probable. I definitely think that it was the brother who killed her and then the parents covered it up. I think that the Ramseys were very appearance-based, meaning they had like a certain image to keep up with. They're very successful, rich, they're very well connected in their community. In their neighborhood, they have lots of friends, and here their son has just knocked their daughter unconscious. They think potentially killed her. I think it would look better, I guess, in their twisted brains that a kidnapper killed her than her brother killed her.
That's a big stretch. Best thing going for the parents in their defense is the lack of motive. Why would they do that? That's
exactly. I think it was just an accident.
That's a huge question mark in my brain. Like, yeah. So I guess that's maybe where the accident theories come in. So I can see that. But again, them trying to hide it, they lose me there with the theories. It's like you walk in on an accident. You saw how quick they were to call the cops. to report her missing, like you would call the ambulance. You would try to save your kid. You'd rush him to the hospital.
You think it's a stretch? We're stretching more than MJ in Space Jam?
I mean, I get that they just don't have nothing, so you're kind of left only to stretch. But yeah, I don't know. I think they did it, but it's like obviously don't have a motive to place on them.
Okay, that's fair. So and we'll talk about the intruder theory. You're gonna side with the intruder theory, is what you're telling me.
Let's hear the intruder theory.
Okay. So on the night JonBenét was murdered, 2 windows in the house were left slightly ajar to let electrical cords for the outdoor Christmas lights through. A potential entry and exit point for an intruder.
Where were these windows?
On the first floor.
Huh.
There was a broken basement window and one door that was unlocked. The detectives theorized that someone got into the Ramsey home through the broken basement window. So someone broke in, they were going to kidnap her, scribbled some ransom note on the spot, but then something went wrong and then they just killed her. But this theory has faced a lot of skepticism, as there were intact cobwebs on the basement window and on the basement door.
So it had been broken for a while.
Yeah, been broken for a while and no one had gone through the door. There were also a lot of like plants around the door that were completely untouched. Yeah, and cobwebs all over the windows. And some of the windowsills had dust and debris on them, which were completely undisturbed.
Uh-huh.
And also, keep in mind, the house was like a maze, right? Super confusing. So I feel like if you were an intruder, this is the first time that you've come into this house, like the way their home was set up, you would kind of have to know where you were going to, 1, get to her room, and 2, to get down into the basement, which again was filled with a bunch of junk.
Yeah. And then to find a notepad, a marker.
Yeah, it would be quite a bit.
Yeah. Doesn't the fact that there is a ransom note imply there's a third party here responsible for the kidnapping? But yet there was no kidnapping because she was found dead in the basement. So that kind of right there rules out that there was ever anybody else. Why would they write a ransom note and then kill her?
Exactly. Like that doesn't make any sense.
It was them. What? Like, what are we? But yeah, why would they do it? That's going to eat at me, bro.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why this case is really captivated.
I'm going to change my career path. I'm going to become a detective now.
You're going to move to Colorado.
I'm moving to Colorado and join the team.
Hop on the team. Apparently, you've got several new potential pieces of evidence that you want to show them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that is all. Wait, so what theory do you think you're going with? You're going with the intruder theory?
I'm going with, I guess, my own theory. Or I guess I do think the parents did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. I definitely believe that more than Burke doing it.
I feel like the first time I told you about this also, you were like, no, there's no way it was Burke.
It's a 9-year-old kid.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like for me, it's the most probable because like, okay, she had the blunt force trauma to her head. It just knocked her unconscious. It didn't kill her, right? So like a child would do something like that. Like that would be something like it was enough to knock her unconscious, but not enough to kill her. You know what I mean?
I guess. I just don't think you just escalate to that level, even as a kid. Like, you push her away or you go wake up your parents, but like, you don't just.
I mean, okay, I could say this. I have my older brothers. I have a brother that broke my other brother's arm. So I feel like when you're kids.
That's a lot different than taking a heavy object and smacking somebody in the head.
Sure.
I don't know. I just think that's a bit of a stretch. But I have no idea why they would do that, why they would kill their daughter. But I do think it was them. I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been just an accident.
None of those theories, I guess, make me feel like they're onto something. There's still too many big question marks with them.
You got to make your own theory.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all I have for you for this episode. It's a bit of a long one, huh?
Yeah, it needed it. There were a lot of details to go over.
Oh yeah, lots of details.
We had to break it down, their theories. I like it. I like the ambiguity. Mm-hmm. I like that there's still room for some armchair detective work going on. Like, I'm actually going to end this and do my own research.
There you go.
So it was good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate every one of you. And we'll just catch you on the next one.
See y'all later. Peace.
Bye-bye.